Breaking: Trump pays sickening price for what just happened to little boy named after him. We have now gotten reports of father in Afghanistan has caused strained relations with his family after naming his now 18-month-old son Donald Trump, according to a report by Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. The report says the boy was born with light hair in the country's central Daykundi Province while U.S. President Donald Trump was running for office. The boy's father, Syed Assadullah, told RFE/RL that he named his son Donald Trump because he was a fan of the president's writing, as well his business and political work. And because he hoped the name would bring his son succeed in life. But the decision to give the boy a non-Islamic name is said to have angered relatives enough to prompt Assadullah to have to move with his immediate family to Kabul. In spite of all this backlash, Assadullah has high hopes for his son. In an interview, he said Donald Trump has a lot of special qualities. He's very capable, he's serious, and he's a good politician with excellent skills as a writer. Assadullah said in the video that was translated that he believes Trump is a really good person and has written a lot of impressive books. Because Trump is a successful businessman, we decided to name our son Donald Trump. The Sun reports. The family of a young boy from Afghanistan have said their lives are ruined after his superfan parents named him Donald Trump. Born in September 2016 as his namesake was running for President of the United States, the 18-month-old was named by his father because of his admiration of the tycoon. This Donald Trump is the third child of Jamila and Syed Assadullah in Shiistan district, and was in the central Afghan province of Daykundi. Syed comes from a poor farming family but earned a college degree, read Trump's books and watched him on television. He told the New York Times that he hoped naming his son after a famous real estate developer and television star would rub off on the child's fortunes. But the naming has had the opposite effect, and has only added to the family's misfortunes. Syed says the decision to give the child a non-Muslim name angered his relatives so much that the family no longer felt welcome in their village in Daykundi, and moved to a rental home in Kabul. He added, "When I named my son Donald Trump, they were not happy. They told me, how you can select the name of an infidel for your son?" The naming of the young Donald Trump had been private even after they moved to Kabul, but a copy of the child's national ID circulated on social media recently and Syed believes it was put out by employees of the Population Registration Department without his permission. Syed says when he went to the government office responsible for verifying IDs from other provinces, he was treated with disrespect and threatened to be sent to Afghan intelligence agency for questioning, just for naming his son Donald Trump. The employees of the department saw the name and they asked me, "What is this? Donald Trump?" I said yes, "Is there any problem?" Syed says they looked at him in a strange way and called him cultureless for naming his son after the US president. While critics have said the family gave their son the controversial name for attention, Syed said they never intended for their child's identity to be so public. "This is just so sad. It's understandable that people are upset because their candidate of choice lost in 2016. Just like many of us were upset when former President Barack Hussein Obama won in 2008. But doesn't there come a time when people just need to get over it and continue with their lives? Just like most of us did when our candidate lost in 2008 and 2012? Especially when it comes to a small child and his name?" Via the LA Times. The country is in the throes of a major epidemic, with no known cure and some pretty scary symptoms. It's called Trump Derangement Syndrome, or TDS, and it's rapidly spreading from the point of origin, the political class, to the population at large. In the first stage of the disease, victims lose all sense of proportion. The president-elect's every tweet provokes a firestorm, as if 140 characters were all it took to change the world. Trump set up a single phone call with Taiwan's president, and suddenly TDS patients were insisting that our One China policy was no more. But the reality is that telephonic communication isn't the same thing as official diplomatic recognition. Besides, in their eagerness to highlight Trump's alleged recklessness, the president-elect's critics misunderstand our policy. One China means that we don't recognize Taiwan as a sovereign country or China's sovereignty over Taiwan. We've never considered Taiwan a mere province, and the Taiwan Relations Act obligates us to defend the island against attack. In the advanced stages of the disease, the afflicted lose touch with reality. Opinion is unmoored from fact. The mid-level stages of TDS have a profound effect on the victim's vocabulary. Sufferers speak a distinctive language consisting solely of hyperbole. Politico recently ran a piece that noted Trump's supposedly unprecedented decision to continue using his private security force, which provoked former independent presidential candidate Evan McMullin to tweet, "A predictable move for a kleptocratic authoritarian who wants to operate outside the bounds of law and basic ethical standards." Even more troubling, he may use the force's lack of government oversight and presidential veneer to carry out extra-legal acts of force. It's quite a stretch to suggest that a desire to keep trusted lieutenants is actually a sinister plot to create a version of the brown shirts, but such illogical leaps are the pathway to the next stage of TDS, a state of constant hysteria. Especially when discussing Trump's views on immigration, hysterical TDS victims assume there's no difference between the president-elect's rhetoric, "Get out," and his proposed policy, deporting known criminals who are in this country illegally. As Reince Priebus, Trump's chief of staff, put it, he's not calling for mass deportation. He said, "No, only people who have committed crimes. And then only until all of that is taken care of will we look at what we are going to do next." As TDS progresses, the afflicted lose the ability to distinguish fantasy from reality. Despite Trump's expressed desire to work something out for the so-called dreamers, those brought here as very young children, Trump's critics continue to harp on this issue. Immigration advocate Frank Shari, executive director of America's Voice, who has a very bad case of TDS, inadvertently revealed this mindset when he said, "Before anyone falls into the trap of believing that Trump is softening on immigration, they should remember that we've seen this movie before." A movie, eh? In the advanced stages of the disease, the afflicted lose touch with reality. Opinion is unmoored from fact. Life resembles a dark fairy tale in which the villain, Trump, is an amalgam of all the worst tyrants in history, past and present, while the heroes Trump's critics are akin to the resistance fighters of World War II. TDS victims routinely compare Trump to Hitler. Time magazine ran an opinion piece that asked just how similar is Donald Trump to Hitler? The answer: the comparison between Hitler and Trump is so poignant because both men represent their personal character as the antidote to all social and political problems. Since Hitler has been dead for more than 70 years, though, victims may feel the need for a more potent bogeyman, a tyrant with more currency. And they've found one in Russian President Vladimir Putin, whom they insist ordered a hacking campaign to help Trump win the election. The other day, Tucker Carlson of Fox News interviewed TDS-riddled Representative Adam Schiff, D. Burbank. Carlson asked for evidence that Putin's alleged machinations had any effect on the election. Unable to come up with a coherent answer, Schiff morphed into J. Edgar Hoover. "You're carrying water for the Kremlin," he said. "You're going to have to move your show to Russia today." If you ask a TDS victim what might help them feel better, they'll use the word normalize. As in, we mustn't normalize Trump. What they're really saying is that normal means of dealing with him aren't enough. Which raises the question, if he's another Hitler, if he's in league with Putin, then why is assassination out of the question? Poke a TDS victim and you'll find they don't think that solution is out of the question at all. This is the final stage of the TDS epidemic, violence against a democratically elected leader. Unless a cure for TDS is found, this is where we are headed. Justin Raimondo is the editorial director of Antiwar.com and the author of Reclaiming the American Right, The Lost Legacy of the Conservative Movement.